take a good look at Neutopia II. It's a game that couldn't be more blatant about copying The Legend of Zelda. It's impossible to describe it as anything other than the PC Engine's Zelda game. And when Neutopia II reached store shelves in September of 1991, it was only 8 weeks until the release of A Link to the Past. If the goal was to have the PC Engine keep pace with Nintendo, this was not going to cut it. Still, it could have been worse. They could have released Neutopia 2 4 months after A Link to the Past, which they did in the US. Now, I don't want to be too harsh on Neutopia 2. It is an improvement over the original Neutopia that was released in November of 1989, but not that much of an improvement. A lot of the graphics got reused, for example. Neutopia 2 received a US release, and that's what I wound up playing for most of my time, though I probably didn't need to. So let's flip over and look at that version. There we go. Now when I go in those doors and people say 2 lines at me, you'll be able to read them. The plot of Neutopia 2 is that the hero of Neutopia 1 went out for cigarettes and left his family behind. Oh sure, he says he's going after some evil, but you just know he's got a new family 1 kingdom over. His son gets worried that his dad hasn't come back yet, and sets out on his own quest to find him. Now the odd thing is, Neutopia 2 takes place pretty soon after Neutopia 1, so I guess in the first game you already had a child. As you might expect, since this game is really obviously based on Legend of Zelda, you proceed by wandering an overworld, 1 screen at a time, and have to locate dungeons that contain important upgrades for your character, and a boss at the end. Neutopia 2 is more linear than The Legend of Zelda. In fact, I'd say it's more linear than Neutopia 1, and Neutopia 1 was already pretty linear. It's a straight line path from your front door to the first dungeon, and then you're funneled directly to the first proper town, and then the path out of town leads straight to the second dungeon. Now the dungeons are a different story. They're a real mess of paths. And of course you can blow open walls to connect rooms, which you are required to do very early on in the game. While you're walking around, button 1 will swing your sword, and this is the source of the biggest change between Neutopia 1 and 2, because you can now swing your sword in a diagonal. I'll give you a few moments to bask in its glory. You can even swing it a little bit if you change direction after the sword is out. Okay, this is obviously a relatively minor thing, but it does reflect some of the more nuanced changes in Neutopia 2. The movement's a little bit smoother, the combat plays a little bit better, the bosses are a bit better designed. Basically, Neutopia 2 is Neutopia 1 with that extra bit of polish. I'm going to walk through playing through the first 2 dungeons, not just because that's how far I got, but because it makes a pretty good outline of what's in the game. You set out from your home village, which for some reason are all caves, and you've got a sword to your name, plus 4 bombs and 1 health potion that you've picked up. You get these from treasure chests in another house, and you open those just by walking into them from any direction. There are places you can enter to get small hints everywhere. Some of them appear when you kill all the monsters on a screen, some of them appear when you push a rock after killing all the monsters on the screen, and some of them appear after you burn something down after killing all the monsters on a screen. My point here is kill all the monsters on a screen. At the very least, you'll want to do it for the money to buy upgrades. After you work your way around the spiral to get to the first dungeon, you'll want to walk past it to this hidden room where someone will extend your life bar by 1 heart. And then you begin dungeon delving. You have to dungeon delve because the path to the next village is blocked by lava, and the item that you need to get rid of the lava is in the dungeon. Not that anyone really tells you that, it's just where else are you going to go? Along the way, other limited use items can drop from enemies. There are magic rings that will destroy all enemies on the screen, and wings that will take you back to the last place that you saved. Those save rooms are the guys with purple cloaks that you find hidden throughout the world, and they give you a fairly long, complicated password to use in order to continue. Of course, if you are on the original PC Engine version, Then you could save your progress to the Tennokoe 2 memory bank, although it still supported the password. One more thing besides money will drop from enemies, and that's a crystal that freezes everyone in place. It's just another way of clearing all of the enemies on the screen. Okay, so now we're in the dungeon, and there's 3 or 4 things that you need to find, depending on which dungeon you're in. The first is a crystal ball that acts as a map. Not required, but given the weird layout of these dungeons, worth having. Just keep in mind that there are rooms that are not shown on the map. They don't contain anything, they just connect other rooms. You'll also need to find the key to open the boss door, the one thing that Neutopia got to first before Zelda. And finally, there are the equipment upgrades. You don't find your tools in the dungeon, just armor, shields, and swords. The first dungeon has better armor for you, and then the second dungeon has a better sword and shield. Once you've found all of the treasures, then it's time to blow up an unmarked wall and proceed to fight the boss. The first boss is a giant worm that erupts from the ground and travels in an arc. You can hit any segments on its body to do damage. There's no way to know where it's going to come out of the ground or where it's going to land if it's blown off the screen. So the best strategy is to just position yourself in the middle and hopefully you can run over and hit it a few times. With the worm dead, you can collect the chalice, the primary item from this dungeon. And the chalice freezes the lava so that you can cross to the next area. That seems to be its only use. Once you're across the lava, you'll find a proper town with buildings and everything. And there the Shrine Maiden has become very sick. They need a special herb to cure her, and guess where that's located? In the town you can purchase a boomerang. They count as disposable items, but as long as you catch it after you throw it, then you can keep reusing it forever. Good thing too, because that 300 gold price tag for them is expensive. The prices on everything increase as you go through the game, and this escalates so much that later on it's more efficient to walk back to these early areas and buy things than it is to fight enemies for money anytime you need medicine or bombs. On the way to the second dungeon, you'll encounter this guy who gives you a magic wand, and this will let you burn things down to find hidden passages. It also creates a wall of fire when you're at full health, but only shoots a fireball when you've taken damage. Changing equipment is handled by pressing the run button, and then you can select what you use when you press button 2. Another thing you'll find as you work your way on the straight path to the second dungeon is this guy who will increase the number of bombs you can carry. The second dungeon is much the same as the first, but it involves a lot more pushing blocks in order to open paths. You're still looking for the crystal ball, key, and of course the equipment upgrades. The boss this time are a pair of moths that fly around the room and are only vulnerable when their butts light up. The fire wand helps a bit here, though the game did freeze when I killed one of them, so maybe finish them off with the sword. Do you think that the characters in Neutopia II look a little bit familiar? There might be a reason for that beyond it just being a sequel. You see, the new characters and enemies in Neutopia II were designed by somebody who had a pretty lengthy career elsewhere, but then had quit the animation industry in 1990, and so he picked up some work from Hudson while figuring out what to do next. And Neutopia II is one of only 2 games with art by Yasuhiko Yoshikazu. If you're not familiar with the name, he directed Venus Wars, was responsible for a lot of the animation in Combattler V, and also designed everybody in the Gundam franchise. Yasuhiko did not stay with Hudson for very long, but he was a big get for them. Japanese players have 2 things to say about Neutopia. First, it's a blatant copy of Legend of Zelda. Second, it's a good copy of Legend of Zelda. And my own view here is, yeah, there's a reason why the Neutopia series is one of the highlights of both the PC Engine and TurboGrafx 16. That inspiration may be worn on its sleeve, but it isn't a lazy copy. It's a very high-effort copy. The sales pitch for the Neutopia series has always been, if you liked Legend of Zelda but wanted more, here you go. And I think it does that better than pretty much anybody. Neutopia 2 is a fun game to play, just not the most original one.